That's how I do things. Right? That's how I learn. I can learn more in 5 minutes than I can from sitting in a day of sessions that are not relevant to me. So pick the sessions that are relevant to you, and don't feel like if you go to a session today that you're necessarily going to get something from every session. Pick one or two things that you really love. This is my school. Stanford is a large school, a large for-profit school in the middle of Singapore. For those of you that have been to Singapore, it sits one of the most centrally located schools now in Singapore. A lot of the schools are moving out to the outskirts where there's a little bit more space. We're a pre-nursery, so we're actually now younger than that. We're actually infant care through grade 12. We've got 2 campuses. This campus is the campus I'm on, which is our grade 1 through grade 12 students. And we've just built a brand new early learning village that is spectacular. You look it up. It's a combination of our school and the Australian International School, literally on the same site. Some of the media is not so favourable of it. One of the articles we read that came to China said the largest preschool in the world. Well, it's not really the point of what they were trying to create, but the facilities, resources, the structure, the layout is just incredible, and our kids are very, very lucky. We run IB, full IB, with US Common Core standards, so Aero, and also, of course, with our connections, we have 92 nationalities of students and 48 nationalities of staff. And our staff, teaching staff are 350, full faculty is 500. So, as you can imagine, it's a large school. We use the hashtag SAISRocks. One of the things that we have developed over the past 3 years is a really strong culture of care and a culture of learning. And of course, in every school, you're going to get people that are going to push back and they're not going to like that, right? Your school will be the same. You'll be able to identify people in your school that you probably actively avoid. They're the sorts of people that, and I'm picturing them in my head now, and I see some smirks from people because they're doing the same thing. But other people, when you see them coming down the hallway, you look at your watch, you go, and you turn the other way quickly to avoid them, or you walk into the staff room and they're in there and you go, oh, left my lunch in the other room, so you go off to do that. Now in my role is to make sure that I include everyone and everything, and my team of digital learning leaders, our job is not to work with kids to teach them skills, it's to empower our teachers so that we can be consistent across our school with what we deliver. So I have a team of 5 digital learning leaders. Their job is 100% of the time to support our teaching faculty. So if I can give you any advice in schools, is stop investing in tools and resources and start investing in human resources. The best development we had was investing in the people in our building and making sure that they had true and authentic and purposeful learning. That it wasn't just someone standing up in front of them, similar to what I'm doing now, and telling them something that's not relevant to them, but actually targeting learning experiences that are going to make a difference to them. So this is one of our optional professional learning sessions that we ran. We had 2 full class kits of virtual reality, and we decided that we're not a BYOD school, we're a school-owned one-to-one device program. iPad from KG2 through grade 5, MacBook Air from grade 6 through 12. So in our high school, our mobile phone policy is you can have it, and if teachers ask you to put it away, you put it away. Middle school are allowed to bring their devices to school, their phones, but they must be put in their locker, and elementary are not allowed. If they bring them, they have to go to the office. And that's completely up to our divisional principals. We don't dictate that at all. It's up to your leadership to control what happens within your division. That's very much what we put in front of them. So this year, we actually bought 25 Xiaomi smartphones. I said to my IT guys, hey, here are the specs for expeditions. Go and buy me a kit, the cheapest you can, with all the specs that we need. Google was selling them for $10,000, I think. That's what it would have cost us for a full kit. We put ours together for $5,000, and we've blogged about it as well. So you can go to my blog and just type in VR, and there's a post that will give you all of the instructions, including the link directly to the specs. That'll give you everything you need. And I'm happy to answer questions today as well. But our professional learning is targeted to people and what they want to do. And when we buy things like this, we don't expect our teachers to use it. Just like in our school with our devices, some of the best lessons I've seen are with pen and paper or with kids talking. So when I walk past classrooms, I actually like seeing classrooms that don't have the iPads out all the time, because often when the iPads are out, the teacher sits down. And that's the way that sort of technology has progressed, that we feel that it can do everything for us. But often, and our motto is, if you can do it without, do it. If it can add value to what you're doing, then bring it out, by all means. But don't need to get it out for the sake of getting it out. These are our kids exploring Google Expeditions in virtual reality. The cool thing about virtual reality is that we can go anywhere in the world, anytime, at the touch of a button. We can be there. The negative thing about VR is that you're closed off from the rest of the world, right? So as technology progresses, we're going to see a shift from the VR to the augmented that we're already starting to see. The craze of Pokemon Go, I'm not sure if that came here, I'm sure it did. And it still does exist in Singapore. Like I was walking to the train station the other day and there's still people, and the people are not kids, they're all the adults standing around the train station trying to catch their Pokemon. It still exists, and that's going to become more and more evident in what we do. There's amazing apps now, and I'm an Apple guy, so on my phone I now have all sorts of apps at the touch of a button that are free that allow me to augment the real world. So the new update on the iPhone gives me a measure app now, and I don't know if you've seen it, but if you do have the new iPhone update, it allows you to use the measure app, hold it up, and I can measure the dimensions of a room by tapping in a corner, tapping in a corner, tapping in a corner, tapping in a corner, and it gives me the exact dimensions of the room. That's pretty amazing. Anything that can make my job easier, I'm okay with it. These are our Techsperts on the left. We run a student technology leadership program, and they're our grade 4 and 5 kids. We have a high school program, but that's purely working with our IT team, our help desk style support. Our Techsperts are a selective program, and I'm happy to tell you more about them later on. I'm not going to go into detail about them now, but basically grade 4 and 5 can apply. We have about 80 applicants every year. We select 12. They go through a full, rigorous application process, and we select them, and then they run events. So this is them on the right actually running some workshops with the owners of our school. They recently spoke at EduTech Asia in front of 400 teachers, which for teachers is terrifying, but for kids it's awesome because they love it and they say it how it is. And that's the best thing about kids, is that they don't talk rubbish, they just say it how it is. So our teachers listen to them as well. So if you don't have a program like this in your school, again, we've got all the details about our program online. Take it. It's not ours, it's not our brainchild, it exists all around the world, but we've created it in the context of our school, which is really important. This side, you can see some of our kids holding up an app from a company called Lightyear. Now, Lightyear are a Finnish company. It just happened that we got a connection through a parent in our school, and we're very open to everything. So we say, come on in. Whatever it is, come in. So we opened up, and this Finnish design company just happens to be from the creators of Angry Birds when they split up. Half of them went and created a company called Lightyear, the others went off and created something else. They came in, and the kids helped them from alpha stage of testing to beta stage of testing through the official launch, and this is a photo from the official launch with the kids who helped design little things like characters. Said that we don't like the names of those characters. So they changed them, they listened to them, and they could see things happening. And the designers back in the US, where the designers were actually live calling with our team of kids so they could see it in action as they were doing things. So while we are super well resourced, and I'm sure if you're at this school, I know that you're super well resourced, and you're probably sitting there thinking that you've got similar things, and that's awesome. But at the end of the day, it's the people in the building that make the difference. Like the video at the start said, I love Simon Sinek and the things that Simon Sinek says and does. One of his quotes is, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So everything we do, and we always say that if we cannot justify it, we don't do it. So if I can't give a very good reason why I'm bringing in a new piece of technology and give evidence to show that, then maybe it's not the right time or the right tool to bring in. So the other thing we try and do is back everything up by data, that we're data-driven and evidence-based. So I want to run through some stats with you now. I'm not a stats or a data guy, but this is really important. UNICEF screen time survey. This is from 2017. They launched this global survey for kids and young adults around the world. And the data that they found out is that children under 18 represent 1 in 3 internet users worldwide. That they, for a long time in schools, we have said, or parents have said to us, screen time, screen time, screen time. What about screen time? And all of the data now points that it's not how much time you spend on screens and on devices, it's the quality of what you're doing that's important. So in all of our parent professional learning sessions we run, and we run a lot of them, we say to them, by all means, goes on at home, it's your job. Because it's always our fault. So if something goes, I'll go back. If something goes wrong, it's always our fault. Right? So we're the ones that have to fix problems with everything. So what we say to them is, you have to establish your own digital rules. You have to establish those. No matter how old your kids are. If you're giving them a device, you must establish those rules. From grade 3, our students are allowed to take their iPads home. So at least from grade 3, you should be establishing rules as to where and when your child can use them. Because if they finish their homework or home learning, then what are you going to do about it? Because I'm not going to be there to tell them to put their device away. I'm not going to be there to say to them, you can't go into your room and shut the door behind you. That's a family rule. And we give them common sense media resources, like media contracts to do. We give them all of that. But we tell them, it's not about how long your child is on there. If they are loving learning, if they're creating, and they're on hopscotch, and they're making and creating their own games, surely you want that, then they're on their phone just messaging their mates. Surely there's a creation over consumption piece that you really want. And for me, living in Asia and getting the opportunity to travel around, I was just in Bangalore in India, it's a real eye-opener. I've got 2 little daughters, a 4-year-old and a 9-month-old now, and we recently went to Cambodia, and we decided to do something a little bit different. We like the luxuries of going to a nice 5-star hotel. We decided that we'd do that, but we'd also go to a village. And we'd go off the tourist track. We went to this village where kids literally had nothing. Right? So kids were lucky if they had a shelter. No shoes, they were lucky if they had food, there was no fresh running water, but there was one thing that every kid did have, and that was a smartphone. Every kid in that village had a smartphone. They were connected. And to me, that's super, super scary. But also, it's something that we can use to our advantage. 98% of households around the world with kids 8 and under have a mobile device, access to a piece of technology. Another piece of data, if you're any middle and high school teachers, people that work in middle and high school, great, this is particularly for you. So 88% of our kids on Instagram, WeChat and Snapchat, they're going to instant forms of communication, right? And we don't necessarily get it. But they do, and that's the way they roll. The last stat's the one that's sort of, for me, the scariest one, as I've got 2 daughters that are in 8 to 10 years' time going to be going into their teenage years. That freaks me out a little bit. That 50% of Snapchat users surveyed felt disconnected from their friends when they no longer had internet or connection. So it wasn't just a device connection thing, it was that they didn't know how to act socially when they didn't have that connection. And that's something that we have to be very aware of as well. Our professional learning sessions we run for parents are never my team in isolation. We actually work with our counsellors, always. So whenever we're running a session, we would have our middle school or our high school counsellors there with us, and we create everything with them. So it's a real holistic view of what we're sharing. We run an awesome session, middle and high school people, where we put our kids in front of our parents. And we call it social media and your team. And again, there's a blog about it. I'll say it a lot, but there's a blog about it that our high school counsellor wrote. And it just outlines everything we did, talked about the rotations. We said to our kids, we want you to talk to your parents about what you do online, and we don't want you to hold back. We're going to have one rule on the night, and that rule is that your parents cannot come to your table if you don't want them to be there. Because we want you to tell it how it is. And we want you to tell them the honest truth to what you do online. That yes, as a teenager, you get sent nudes. That happens. And your parents need to hear that. because it's the reality of being a parent in the digital age, because they didn't know that. That didn't exist when they were your age. So we put them in front of our parents, and they rotated around, and the kids chose the stations. So one of them was like time management. So one of the grade 12 girls said, instead of telling me that I've got 2 hours I have to do homework, tell me that I can do my task and then I can do whatever I want. And she said, I'll sit there for 2 hours, and the task might take me 5 minutes, but I'll do it at 1 hour and 55 minutes so that I finish and I can move on. But if you'd said to me, finish my homework or finish my task, I would have done it in 5 minutes, and then I can do what I want to do. So give me some autonomy as well. This is, if you haven't looked at these before, they are phenomenal. You can actually go back to 2013, I think, or 14, and see the change in this. Just Google Internet Minute, and you'll see 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18. This is the most recent one, and really scary how much happens in 1 minute. I'm just going to give you 20 seconds to look at this, and while you're looking at it, in a moment I'm going to get you to have your device out. So please make sure you are connected, because I'm going to get you to do an activity using a tool that I really love that maybe you'll be able to take back to your classroom. So this data shows us, and I don't have the comparative data over time, but it shows us that our kids, we are moving away from slower forms of technology like Facebook. Facebook's cool for me, but if I said that to one of our middle or high schoolers, they wouldn't even want to talk to me about it, right? I'm not cool anymore. But Snapchat is, and Snapchat has just gone boom. But maybe in 2 years' time, Snapchat isn't going to exist. Because every year, every day, every month, new technology comes around that our kids are getting into. Okay? They know far more than we know. And that's a fact. And that's something that we have to come to grips with. And I'm probably preaching to the converted, because you're here on the weekend learning about this sort of stuff. But it's probably the sort of thing that you need to take back to people in your team that you learn here today. So, what I would like you to do is go to menti.com. My New Zealand accent makes words sound really bad, so I put lots of words on screens so that you can actually see what you're doing rather than focus on my voice. But Mentimeter, hands up for those that have used Mentimeter before. Awesome. It's one of my, if not my favorite formative assessment tool to use in a classroom, and it's free. I'm going to get you in a moment when you go to menti.com. I'm just going to come out of here and pull up my Menti. This is what it looks like in the background for me. The dashboard for a teacher, super simple, and it's live. So when you go to menti.com and type in 779021, it allows you to answer my questions. As a teacher, something comes up in my classroom, I can actually do this immediately, and I can get a sense of whether they've actually understood the concept of what I was talking about. So I've set up word cloud. So as you share your favorite things or the things that you noticed, the more times that word gets shared, the bigger it is, and it's live. So in my classroom, I can get a real sense of what's happening in a heartbeat. There's also ways of doing like sliders. So I can say, on a scale of 1 to 10, what was your understanding of the last task we did? And it gives me an average graph in the background, and it shows me where everyone is at. And in the bottom corner, I can see who is and who isn't doing it. So I know that there should be more than 23 people that have done this in my classroom, so that I can get a real sense before they go. It could be my exit ticket at the end of the lesson. It could be something that I use just to get a sense of where they're at. But for me and our teachers in our classroom, it's a real game changer as far as a free tool, and I love free tools that I can use anywhere, anytime. Literally, I could create this in less than a minute if I know what I want to find out. So it could be something on the go as well. So obviously, as a group, we are loving Snapchat. I'm freaked out about the stats that Snapchat showed us. And I think every time I talk about and I show this graphic, the word that comes up is overwhelming. Too much. Take that as you will. It's something that I think, whether we like it or not, it's in our faces, right? So this is pretty good. I like that we've got 81, 82, 83, because I think we've only actually got 75 people in the room. So, yeah. Thanks, YouTube. Yeah, and that's the other thing too, that the YouTube stream now but that can just be done in a heartbeat. So you can turn around and actually wave at all the people that are watching live on YouTube. I don't know how many people have we got?
One.
Yes. So let's all wave to the one person on YouTube watching. That's really exciting. So definitely 99. Someone's got like 3 devices out and sharing things. I love those. I'll just leave that running in the background. But if you're going back to your classroom, maybe this is just one little thing you might take back to a teacher in your team that might really help them in the classroom. But looking at all of this, technology changes so fast, but have we really changed the way we do things? So I'm going to take a step another way here. I'm going to breeze through these reasonably quickly, and these slides will be available for you as well. But let's look at 5 ways of engagement in the classroom. So the first thing for me as a teacher first is that relationships matter. So back at my last school when I first moved to Singapore, at a different school, it was a small, very small Australian school that since is actually no longer open. I turned to this teacher and that I worked alongside of, a colleague of mine, and I was like, this young guy, so excited about the new year. The kids are about to come through the doors, and I say to him, what are you doing on day 1? Like, I'm going to be doing all these fun, exciting activities. We're going to be chatting, we're going to be laughing, and by the end of the day, my aim is to know every student's name. So before they leave that first day, I will always know every kid's name, and that's my number 1 goal. I don't care about anything else, but I will smile through everything, and I'll know every kid's name. And she turned to me and said, they don't pay me to like kids. And that was her words. And I went, huh, I laughed. And she went, no, they don't, and walked away. And that made me feel really sad, because there's teachers like that in our schools that truly believe, I don't know why they got into teaching, just think that they're going to make money, but why on earth are you in a classroom if you don't like kids and don't want to be able to help them? So if you can do anything else, focus on the rapport with your kids and of course connecting them to the world. And that sort of brings us into that kids are born natural makers, thinkers and creators. Whether you have a makerspace, we have an innovation center, we have a makerspace, whether you have that or not, let kids play and explore. Pull things apart. Grab things, make things, have Lego out, let them explore, because they have this deep-seated need to pull things apart, especially our young boys. They need to be able to tinker and play. So in an innovation centre, we get all of this old technology, and we leave it there. We let them just rip things to pieces, and it does not matter what they do with it, but they rip things apart, and then those parts actually get, by our middle school boys in particular, and I'm saying boys because 99% of the time it is our middle school boys, and they come in and they grab the pieces and they use them to make and create new things. So we just created this piece that was really nothing, just using with our old technology. Now, middle schoolers are now using it to make and create their robots, connecting them to Arduinos and doing all sorts of things that I don't control or do, but we gave it the opportunity to do so. This is one of my favorite stories, and I tell it all the time, but when I was teaching most of my teaching history is sort of with middle and upper elementary kids, so sort of grades 4 to 8 is my sweet spot for teaching. And I was in a grade 5 and 6 math lesson. I was teaching math, I love math, and we just smashed out this fractions and decimals lesson. And I got home that night, yes, that was one of the best lessons I've ever had. Those kids were totally engaged, loved it, and then I went, oh, no way. I completely messed things up. I was looking at my lessons for the next few days. Oh no, I completely taught them the wrong thing. Like, what do I do? Do I go back and tell them I messed up and I made a mistake? Or do I go back and just carry on? And as a teacher, and to save face, I could have easily gone and carried on, and they wouldn't have said anything, and we would have carried on. But I decided to go and say, hey guys, look, I really messed up. I actually taught you the wrong strategy yesterday. And they all were like looking at each other and laughing. This little girl put up her hand and goes, Mr. Kemp, we knew that you'd messed up, but we just let you go because you were just so excited. So in the background, they'd actually known that I'd messed up, and they were doing the right thing, but they didn't want to tell me because I was so pumped about this math lesson, which was pretty cool. And again, that goes back to the first point I shared about relationships, right? That relationships matter. But you don't, now in our world of being connected, you do not have to be the expert in everything you do. Like I was told at Teachers College, I had to be the history expert, I had to be the numeracy, the literacy. I had to know everything. But I simply don't anymore. I'm connected to this amazing landscape around the world that can help me whatever I need to do. Learning environments are really important now. People might talk to you about the tools, the seats that you sit on, the spaces that you're in. We are very much, if you go through our classrooms, we have lots of amazing spaces. When you look at the classroom, that was boxes. Right? And we let the kids and teachers customize those to be whatever they want to be. Also thinking about what that means to be a BYOD versus a one-to-one school, and what are the pros and cons, and I really think that that's context specific. It has to work for your school. We're a one-to-one school, whereas our neighbour school, the Australian school, is a BYOD school because it works for them. We will not go to a BYOD program purely because what we have going right now works for us. And we have all sorts of amazing things going on with it. There's no need for us to change it. And the last thing that I'm super passionate about is giving kids a voice and a choice in what they do. And student agency truly does matter. And that's what our Techspert program does. In one tiny part of our school, which is technology. We do not pick our tech guru kids. We pick kids that are confident at speaking and sharing, but like technology. So what we did in the first year, one of our biggest mistakes, was we said to our kids, we want kids who love technology and are really good at it. So we picked 12 coders, and we picked 12 kids. But we put them in front of people, and they sat there, and they freaked out. And they couldn't talk, they couldn't share, they couldn't do anything. So it was a complete waste of our time. So we flipped that entirely and picked kids who could talk, and picked kids who could share, and could pick kids that wanted to learn. So unfortunately for us, those are the kids that are also in every production and every sports team. So that's the other sort of tricky part. We're in a big school, so it allows us a lot more choice. But if you're in a smaller school, it really does come down to what do they want to do, because they can't do everything. So I guess the biggest message here is that you, the people in your buildings, are the most important resource of anything in your school. Today I'm going to share, I've got 2 sessions today and 2 sessions tomorrow. I just wanted to run through the 4 of them. This is not a self-promotion of what I'm talking about, because I'm more than happy if you don't come to my sessions, because there are hundreds of other amazing sessions happening on the schedule as well. But if these sort of resonate with you, come along. So today, after lunch, I've got a session about our digital citizenship program, which is one part of our digital learning model that links to the ISTE standards, Common Sense Media, and a few other bits and pieces. We're going to look at Google's new Be Internet Awesome Google piece today as well. The second piece is my passion, which got me into all of this, which is connecting kids and people to the world. And in that one, I'm going to share a whole bunch of my favorite tools, and they're all free. Things that you can use in your classrooms or with your faculty to support learning. Tomorrow morning, my session is going to be on, it's going to be actually just a come in and we'll chat session. I'm going to share our model, but it's not going to be a formal give and get sort of session. We'll sit around a kumbaya circle and chat about whatever you want to chat about. Maybe there's something that resonated with you of what I shared today, or in one of my sessions that you wanted to learn more about. And then the last one is Google Expeditions, purely looking at a beginner's level of what Google Expeditions does and what that looks like in my school. And I know Rob's running a session very similar, but adding on Google's Tour Builder.
It's more about tour creators, so if you know nothing about expeditions, Craig's good, but I'm going to be diving into making your own.
Awesome. And very quickly before I finish, because I know that when James stands up, it's time for me to get moving on, because people need to go and get a coffee at the corner of my eye. This is my final message to you. We are the last generation to understand life before the internet. We're the last generation to understand life before a smartphone. We, the people in this room, are the last generation to understand how to connect without social media, how not to be digital natives, how to be fluent translators of before and after technology. We're the last generation to wonder each morning what you should do, rather than, I'm guilty of this as well, rolling over, picking up my phone and wondering what I've missed from the social world. So the biggest message here for me is, and again I'm preaching to the converted, but change your mindset, get connected and stay up to date, or you will 100% be left behind. Thank you very much.
I love the way Craig starts out by saying, take one or two things away from the weekend, and then he just gives us like 100 item list of cool things you want to know. And an Apple update, and I saw everybody picking up their Apple phones and measuring the shoulders of the person in front of them as he was talking about it. So yeah, please give it up for Craig. So just as we get set up here, I'd like to remind everybody where the schedule is. I'm just going to show the link to the schedule. So I'm just going to put the link to the schedule up again. Whilst waiting for that to sync, just to explain to everybody who's not from Chadwick, if you went for coffees and muffins this morning, all of the sessions are going to be around in that part of the building. So we come out of here, we walk down past the registration desk, turn left, there's a first set of rooms. If you keep going a little bit further, there's a second set of rooms down there. All the rooms have those little Google pins on, you know, from Google Maps, from Google Earth, the little pins. Every room has a sign outside with a Google pin on to help you find the right room. This is a link to the schedule, and the schedule coming up next, as Craig mentioned, we've got some amazing sessions this weekend. Up this morning, we have Tim, Karina, Gary, and Jason. Jason at the back. We've got some amazing sessions today, so please, guys, have a great morning. Lastly, toilets are around the building. And please, one more thing. We are definitely invited here to be at Chadwick. We feel very excited to be here. Please do take care of the school as it is our own school. So by the end of tomorrow, if we have any trash, please help me clear up the trash before we go. It'll be amazing to take care of it. So guys, have a great morning, and we'll see you all around. Thank you.